Welcome back. The Chinese government-tied hacking group known as Salt Typhoon is targeting the phones of former President Trump's family members, members of the Biden-Harris administration, and State Department officials. All of this ahead of the election. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, and members of the Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign staff were also targeted. The FBI reportedly has evidence that the Chinese hackers collected audio communications from the phones. They also believe that they may have had access to text messages and call logs. Joining me now is Tennessee Congressman Mark Green. He's the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here this morning. What can you tell us about these Chinese Communist Party hackers?
Well, as you know, Maria, thanks for having me on the show. The way China does it is they do it through sort of separate companies that are distributed throughout their country. And then these entities that are state-sponsored but not technically sort of like as if they owned the company but didn't tell anybody they did. And it's filled with the hackers. There's many of these throughout the country. In fact, I think it was FBI Director Wray who told me in front of my committee that if he put every single person he had on the China desk, he would be outnumbered 50-1 for hackers in China. So they're there. They're very well resourced by the government, and they are continuously targeting the United States and our allies.
Well, Congressman, it really strikes me that Christopher Wray has said umpteen times in your committees and other hearings that China is our #1 adversary, that China is the biggest threat that this country has faced, that China is, dominating his resources. And yet we never hear any solutions to that from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What have they done to actually stop the bad behavior of the Communist Party of China, as we've got spy balloons, surveillance everywhere you look, propaganda everywhere you look, theft of intellectual property, COVID, fentanyl, the list is long.
Yeah, no, the list is incredibly long, and I like to use the paradigm dime to describe how we've been in economic, informational, and diplomatic war with China for decades, for a long time. But your question is, what have they done? And really not much. The one thing that they did cooperate with us is the China cameras in our ports. We issued a report after we did our deep investigation into that. And of course, they came back and said, okay, we're going to take action. Now, the action they took, not strong enough, but they did respond very positively to that. That's the only cooperation my committee's had with their cyber folks on China specifically.
Also, you've got Joe Biden's China-related outbound investment. You've got this idea that China's economy will need help and the U.S. is about to bail them out.
Yeah, I think that's really crazy because this is an opportunity where their debt to GDP ratio is, particularly in their provinces. The transitions they're making after COVID have been really bad economic decisions. This is an opportunity for us. Hopefully we take it in the next administration, but we certainly haven't in the last one.
Yeah, it's really striking how Chinese efforts to undermine America are so obvious and evident, and we don't see our leadership doing anything about it. I want to get your take on the border as well, Mr. Chairman. Donald Trump is vowing to help families who have been victimized by migrant crime if he wins back the White House. Here's what he said. Watch this.
I think what's happening on the border is the single biggest issue. Under my administration, we will be seizing the assets of the criminal gangs and drug cartels. And we will use those assets to create a compensation fund to provide restitution for the victims of migrant crime, and the government will help in the restoration.
It's interesting that he wants to create this compensation fund for anyone who's been impacted by migrant crime. He hosted the mothers of victims of migrant crime at that event at Mar-a-Lago yesterday, and the mother of Rachel Morin was there. Rachel, of course, allegedly murdered by an illegal El Salvadorian migrant while she was jogging in Maryland last year. Her mother's calling on Vice President Harris to take immediate action on the border. In a letter to Harris, she calls on her to sign an executive order to close the southern border, writing, quote, "While we can't bring Rachel back, we can protect other American women, children, and families." So, Mr. Chairman, what about this? We just said that this administration has done nothing about communist China. Have they done anything to counter this migrant crime and migrant murder of American citizens?
No, Maria, they've actually caused the problem. Unlike China, who is an enemy who's attacking us, in that dime paradigm I mentioned before, these guys created the problem. I mean, with their policies that opened up the border, the catch and release, that allowed the migrants who tested it to just flood our country. Inside that are the nefarious folks like the drug cartels and fentanyl, the terrorists, the 8 ISIS folks we just caught in New York that walked across our southern border. They created the problem. And we were asserting all along that it was because of power, et cetera, that they were just allowing this to happen. And they said the silent part out loud when 11 states filed a lawsuit, the DOJ filed a lawsuit against 11 states saying you can't take illegals off your voter rolls. That's why they're doing this. It's about power. It's about winning elections. They've got our border wide open, and now they've admitted it with the DOJ's lawsuits.
Well, I mean, you're right. How do you believe anything else? I mean, the truth is
exactly.
these federal appeals judges who are saying reinstate all of those illegals back onto the voter rolls. The law is the law, right? You're supposed to have only citizens vote in this election. How is it possible that these judges are forcing Virginia and Alabama and others to put non-citizens back on the voter rolls after they're trying to clear up the voter rolls?
They're ideologically motivated, and they're not motivated by truth to the Constitution. That's how they're doing it. And honestly, the governor should just follow the Constitution and tell them, no, we're purging our voter rolls. I mean, that's what they need to do. The governors just need to say no. I mean, certainly in the election 4 years ago, those states, Arizona and Pennsylvania, defied the Constitution and sent out mail-out ballots. So I think the governors of the 11 states should say, no, we're just going to, we'll appeal it, of course, but we're going to make our voter rolls American citizens.
Well, Democrat governors are not going to do that. You know that.
No, that's true. I got that part of it. But Virginia, Alabama,
yeah,
that should be an easy one.
Mr. Chairman, you've got a new Real Clear Politics op-ed titled Chaos and Crime, Legacy of the Biden-Harris Border Policies. You write this, nearly 4 years later, looking at the catastrophic, unprecedented border crisis that has unfolded on their watch, can anyone say with a straight face that they have fulfilled their obligation to keep the American homeland secure and safeguard our sovereign borders? The answer unequivocally is no, and Americans are the ones paying the price. I mean, do you think voters will hold them to account for this? Tell us more.
I think so. I certainly hope so. When I'm out in the communities, I mean, people are fired up. I'm approached by lifelong Democrats who are saying, I am done with the Democrat Party. And the border is typically one of their #1 issues.
Yeah.
Crime is way up there. The economy. I mean, these guys have created nothing but chaos. Chaos at the border, chaos in our economy, chaos in the world. I mean, Israel, Ukraine, Afghanistan, they've created a world of chaos. And so people are just sick of it, and Democrats are saying they've had enough. So I think.
Yep. Unfortunately, she won't take any responsibility for it. She did an interview, Adam Johnson, with Brett Baer, and she would not take any responsibility whatsoever for the wide open border. Jump in here.
Yeah, talk about accountability or lack thereof, Maria. As a matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, you're talking about that right now today. Can you help all of us here understand how is it that the American government actually sends airplanes to foreign countries, puts migrants on those airplanes, and then flies them to the U.S. over the border? Can you help us, as the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, can you help us understand how that happens?
No, it's insanity. I mean, it really is. And I get so tired. My friends tell me, stop using the word insanity with these guys. But, I mean, everything they do, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Look, even Mayorkas admitted that this was contrary to the law. He paused the program for a little bit, thought about it, and then just reinstated it. He said himself, this is illegal. I'm not supposed to be able to do this. They're lawless. I mean, that's why I impeached the guy in the first place, was because he wasn't following the laws, respecting the Constitution of the United States, the fact that there's a separation of powers that's supposed to be equal, but he just totally disregards the laws passed by Congress. Congress shouldn't feel guilty, though. Joe Biden blew off the Supreme Court when they said you can't, pay off student loan debt. So
Right.
I don't know.
That's
This
right.
administration's insane.
Real quick, as the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, are you expecting violence on election night? Are you expecting outside agitators to create chaos in America around this election?
Well, hope is not a method, right? So the best thing to do is to always be prepared. And, we talk to governors as I travel around the country. We talk to, local sheriffs and law enforcement personnel, National Guards, all of that. Everybody's ready. You expect, but you hope for the best and you be prepared. There's always a chance that somebody, look, we've had an open border with 2 million people who came in. We had an Afghan who wanted to go shoot up an election place.
Right.
Clearly that we have to be vigilant.
Chairman, thank you very much for being here this morning.